Welcome to the Relief Podcast with Demetri. And
Welcome.
today I have the pleasure of Dwight Heck, who's an author, a financial planner, a great family man, and I've had the pleasure of getting to meet him in person in Arizona. Uh, Dwight, welcome to the show.
Good day, Demetri. How are you doing today, brother?
Oh, I'm very grateful and blessed, and I put in some preparation for this. Not preparation H, but I put in some preparation ahead of this. But I might need it after this,
Yeah, you know what? I'm an acquired taste, just like you, and that's why we became friends.
I know. Well, how does it feel to kind of to own your suit? Because you talk about being real and being
I am
powerful.
who I am.
Yeah, yeah.
I gave up apology. See, my whole life growing up as a child, I was always trying to please people because I was a sickly kid. I had lots of health issues and I got bullied a lot. So I was always trying to be the funny guy. I was always trying to be people pleaser. I'd please everybody but myself. And behind the facade of my childhood, even going into adulthood, I was miserable. Right. So I woke up one day on my personal development journey, which started in about 1993, 92, somewhere around there. And I said, you know what? I've got to change. I've got to do something. I got to start pleasing me. Otherwise, if I'm not happy, am I really making a difference in people's lives or am I just a facade? Right. So I just became the real genuine me and been working on my mission statement, which is helping people live life on purpose, not by accident, by focusing on me. Because if I focus on being the best version of myself, I can be the best version and assist other people to live a purposeful life too, and see past their facade that they've been presenting to their family and friends, their clients, right? Being the genuine you attract genuine people that want to be around you, and that's the tribe I want, right? I don't know, you're pretty much the same way.
No, I'm like ringing true. I'm like you're reading my thoughts. You're seeing my you're seeing my inner script. Maybe you were there for the coaching call this morning. Uh, like it goes around in our
I'm
circles.
tuned to your brain waves, brother.
Oh, I
I'm tuned
appreciate
to
I
your
appreciate
brain
I appreciate your
waves.
intuition, and I think one of your many talents among just your sense of humor, because there's a difference between being a comedian and being a clown, and you know how to escape that difference well.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, because a lot of great comedians come out of your country, so
Oh
but they
yeah.
don't go back. Once they come to America, they usually don't go back.
Well, that's there's an easy reason to know why they don't come back. It's easier for them to make fun of Americans. Where
Oh yeah, yeah. You got to be on the ground. You got to be on the ground to relate better. Okay, that's very well said. Okay, that deserves an extra dose of Canadian bacon. Okay, so
hey, you're talking to a guy that's quick on his feet, and I'm quick when I sit as well.
well, listen, like what do they say? Like you build trust, right? And then you build a following, and then those followings could become friends, and then eventually clients, right?
Exactly.
So this is like you project who you are. Like how long have you had? Like you have a podcast, right? And
Yeah.
I listened to your episode with Tony today. It was really it put me in a nice mood ahead of this podcast. And like
Tony's a great interview though, right? Considering he was my first ever interview, and then the one I just did as the second time I interviewed him. Yeah, I recorded my 153rd yesterday,
wow.
154th. I didn't record anything the last 10 days because I had surgery, right? And it's been tough for me to sit for long periods of time. So I canceled everything I had the last week and a bit. But yeah, Tony was a great conversation, right?
Oh,
He's
absolutely.
Tony. He's
No,
Tony.
it's an original. It's somebody who the show proves that you don't have to keep a paycheck job your whole life, right? You can
Yeah.
truly build that side hustle and become a millionaire, and then that income replaces the need for that stable paycheck, and then you build freedom, right? And you talk about the same thing to become financially free. Like, what? try to share the light, because right now there's a lot of people who are struggling. Like, they're struggling to earn enough money to pay rent. They're struggling to have enough money to pay rising bills. Like, how do you build some calm into their mind, their heart, ahead of building maybe better financial discipline, maybe a
Well,
better mindset around that?
I like how you put that. How do you build calm? That's a great way to put that. I'm going to rob that from you, because so many people right now are living a life of strife, trials and tribulations and angst. They don't know how to live a purposeful life. And purposeful living, like I write about in my book, is literally it starts with goal setting. And people say to me, well, you're in finance. What does goal setting have to do with, and budgeting have to do with this and that? Well, guess what? If you don't understand your history of how you got that money monster, that thing that's on your back that makes it so that you're spending $1.50 when you only have, a dollar, and you live a life on a hamster wheel and you're constantly doing that, and then all of a sudden inflation kicks in, like we've been going through, and people are struggling to make their mortgage payments. They're struggling to pay bills. It all goes back to the fact that they don't know the rules of the money game. They don't understand their inflows and outflows, and they don't understand what they want in their living day, their actual present day. They don't know what they want. They know they don't want to wake up feeling crappy and quiet desperation, which I spent many years doing. And they live that quiet desperation. It all ties back. Everything in our life, a lot of our emotional strife, our violence in society. You look at marital breakdown, you look at addictions, all tied to finance, all tied to money, and it's so easy to fix. You take I got a simple spreadsheet I've been using now. This is my 21st year. I've had it dialed up a little bit. I had a guy put some graphs and stuff on it to shock people. So it shows them that they have a little sliver of savings or they don't have any savings. I'm trying to shock people into realizing that you need to track even your haircuts, your oil changes. Your presents are the biggest culprit, people listening. If you have 3 birthdays in a month and you just spend whatever you want, and then all of a sudden you're in lines of credit cards, overdraft, you're wondering why you can't pay your bills, it's because you have no defined purpose for your life. This is what I have. I have $2,000 and my bills are $2,400. What do I do, Dwight? Okay, well, let's look at all your expenses. Let's dial them all down. Let's write every single thing down. Everything? Why do I have to put a haircut down? Well, where does it come out of? Your bank account? Well, yeah, well, that's all of a sudden $20. If it's a woman, it could be $100, right? It all depends what they're getting done. So in order for people that live a calm life, they need to understand their numbers. And people say, well, I can't live like that. That's horrible. That budget thing gives me the heebie-jeebies. I hear everything. You wouldn't believe the stuff people say to me. And I'll say, okay, well, then you continue to live the life that you're living, going to bed at night in quiet desperation and getting up in quiet desperation and living a facade all day, and watch your health decline. You're going to be sick all the time. You're going to be miserable to be around, and you're only going to attract the same. If you want to change your life, you need to change your purpose. And it all starts with understanding, what do I want today? Can I afford it? Oh, what do I need to do to change it to afford it? Maybe not today, maybe 6 months, maybe a year from now, maybe 5 years from now, maybe it's long-term for retirement. Oh, Dwight, I really want to leave something for my kids. Well, guess what? All that has to be planned. You can't just throw spaghetti at a wall in your life and expect it to be purposeful, at least in my humble opinion.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you have to plan, or there's going to be nothing there. And the future is uncertain. AI is going to take away a lot of jobs, and
Already is.
You're right, and then it's going to continue. So we have to be scrappy and resourceful and tight with and with the intention of how we spend our money. So such as going out, like here in the States, 2 people could go out to breakfast in the past for $25 and have eggs and toast, and now it's 30, and then it's going close to 40. And at some point, you're saying, wait, I can eat cheaper at home, right? And not to sound like you never go out, but maybe it goes back to it being a special occasion after, as opposed to, oh, this is what we do because I don't want to cook.
People have become lazy because society has allowed them to, and they've accepted it and embraced it. So they run through drive-through in the morning instead of making them like one of the simple things I do. I have a workshop series that I work with clients, and you bring up breakfast and stuff. And I go through one of these workshops, it dials and it talks about, this is how within a very short period of time, I can teach you how to free up $100. And people go, oh, that'll never happen. And once I go through all their numbers, it's not that hard. I'll say to them, you know what? How about in the morning, you do like I do? If I'm leaving the house, I'm never leaving my coffee cup. I make my own coffee. I grind my own beans. I make it for pennies. And they'll go, well, I like all that fancy coffee, this and that. Okay, you like all that fancy coffee. How many days a week do you do it? Well, 5 days a week. And I go out for lunch every day, and I do this and I do that. Well, how about you make extra food the night before and take some the next day? Even if I can get them to take 1 day a week, and I start building a habit of positive money mindset, all of a sudden they're seeing freed up money, and we can apply that to debt restructuring, like to pay off debt, saving for a vacation that's not on a line of credit or a credit card that takes me a year to pay off, saving for retirement. Oh my goodness, Dwight, we're living a purposeful life. Guess what? I don't have a time frame for you, but you know what? It's going to take some effort, and I'll coach you through it. You just have to be the willing. You have to be willing and sick and tired of living a life of being on that hamster wheel and watching all these other people, and you feel you're jealous of them because they're being successful. Well, guess what? They were where you were maybe one day, but they decided to grab their life, live a life on purpose, and start having a roadmap of where they wanted to be. Do they always get where they want to be? No. What they do when they fail, they use failure as a stepping stone. They reset. They reach out to people like me if they're still in the new stages of figuring it out, and they get somebody that sees the forest for the trees and helps them understand where they need to be, how they need to get back on track, and pats them on the back and says, good for you for recognizing your failure and using it as a stepping stone and not using it as a thing to hide and be embarrassed and put your head in the sand. You called me, you had a video call, whatever, or you called me and said, hey, come see me. Let's go through this. Hey, Dwight, we're trying to figure this out. We've been clients for years. This is actual conversations. Clients of mine, 10, 15 years. Hey, we got this going on. Mm-hmm. We're going to send you an updated budget, or could you come and see us? We're trying to figure this out. We don't want to affect all the hard work we've put in that you've helped us do, but we're kind of gotten lazy. Can you help us get back on track? We want to do this. What's your opinion of that? And I give them my straight up honest opinion. Sometimes they're butthurt. Sometimes they're appreciative. Sometimes they're somewhere in between.
Well, you know what it is? Being direct and being blunt is how it needs to be delivered, like a medical diagnosis, right? I mean, like you recently had appendicitis, right? What if you ignored that? What if you ignored that? What would happen, right?
Well, according to the doctor, if I didn't get the emergency surgery, I wouldn't be a good place, right?
Right. So meaning, does it have to, from a financial perspective, does it have to get to that emergency room? For some people, right? Like that's how they
put it.
That's how they reach out to me, right? And that's what we do at Real Estate Relief is people have fallen behind on their payments, right? And they may still have some equity left in that home. And if they hurry up and sell, at least they salvage a bad situation. If they can't earn money fast enough to pay their bills, right? Because sometimes there's like band-aids that we can do, like not going out to eat to start saving. But then there's sometimes surgical things that we have to do to get rid of the pain in our life.
100%. I do that with people here. I have been for 21 years. I remember when I first started in the industry in 2002 and sitting down with mortgage specialists, sitting down with people that just do debt consolidation for a living, and sitting down with bankers and listening to the stories that they tell me about people and how, this is where they start. And then all of a sudden they're way up here. And then you have to do, like you're saying, that surgical thing. And you're hoping they have, some of my clients, I hope they'd have equity, because my business, I don't charge for what I do in my own country right at this present time. In the 2 provinces I'm licensed, I do all that stuff for free. So I'm dealing with these professionals for them saying, okay, go to the bank. Oh, you got $50,000 in equity. borrow against your house if they still have the ability to, because sometimes they've already screwed their credit up so they can't even borrow against their house, and then they have to do that surgical slice and sell it and move on and try to make it so they don't feel like garbage along the way. Because wouldn't you agree, you and I have to do a lot of hand holding? We do a lot of what a hairstylist or a barber or a bartender might do. We listen a lot. The difference is we have to give constructive advice and be kind about it. It's very surgical what we do. I like how you put that, right? Very much.
You have to be deliberate and intentional, and tell people, and not lie to people, because they've already been deceived, and sometimes they deceive themselves. And whether it's circumstance or choice that has led to this situation, there's only one way out, and that's just acceptance. And once we accept things, now we can at least get into the willing, right? Because you already have the path. Like you said, you're 21 years proven in this business, and what inspired you to get into this field?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question, because what happened with my life is I was a computer consultant. I owned a computer consulting firm. I managed lots of people, six-figure earner. I had health issues in 2011, right? Or 2001, pardon me, shortly after 9/11 happened. I had a massive health scare, dealing with a neurologist and some specialists, and they're telling me, you take things too personally. You're too tenacious. And I'm learning later in life that tenacity is a good thing as long as I use it properly. But I was a workaholic, brother, making good money, but my health was slipping. I was a good six-figure earner, but I was broke. I was going from paycheck to paycheck with my own firm, and it just struggled. And I had a friend reach out to me, and he said, I think you've been having health issues, and this is a friend of mine for a long time. We've been friends now over 30 years. He's helped me redirect into many different careers. He's the same type of person. He's changed until he finally found his calling, and he's helped me along the way. And he said, your finances suck. That's what he basically told me. He called me. He was in Vancouver. For those that don't know Canada, it's on the west coast of Canada along the Pacific Ocean. And I live about 12 hours away from him. So he called me up and he says, dude, your finances suck. Your health's been sucky. You're good at what you do, but it's not good for you. It's not your true calling. Your true calling is to help others with their money situations. But first and foremost, before you can do that with your personality, because that's what we want to tap into, is your ability to talk to people, to relate, to be kind. We need to get your finances in order because they're a mess. And once we get them in order, we're going to help you, learn the rules of the money game so you can go out and help others. Things that you should have learned back in elementary school and you never learned, right? We're going to teach you the same things. So initially, you're going to laugh at this story. I said, no, I'm going to continue on the same scale. I'm not starting over. I'm too old. I'm in my 30s, and I'm telling them I'm too old to restart, right? So people listening, you can restart at any age. So months later, we're talking summertime. I'm divorced. I got joint custody of my kids. My kids are with me. The guy that he sent out to interview me for this brokerage to see if I would be a fit, I had poo-pooed him a couple times. I reached out to him and I says, I want to come see you. I didn't have my kids for the day. So I went and seen him, and this was on a Thursday. And it says, I want those books. I want to get, what regulatory books do I need? What do I need to study? How long is this going to take me? And he gives me these books, and it's probably about 6 inches, maybe 7 inches high of different manuals I needed to study to get my different licenses. And he says, it'll take you 4 to 6 months. You might not pass the first time, blah, blah, blah. And I says, okay, what do I need to do? What's the process? Well, he says, we have some extra courses here we bought from the company the government requires. This is what it's going to cost you. It was a few $100. And I said, okay, well, when I'm ready to write, what do I do? He says, well, you got to go to this office downtown of Edmonton here, this provincial body. There's only one place. You only can write one time, and you got to pay this fee. I said, okay. Give me all this information. Well, you won't need that for months. No, I want it now. Well, what do you mean? I says, I just want it now. I'm gonna write it on Monday. He says, he laughed at me. He laughed in my face, right? I says, okay, well, I'm a tenacious guy. I like proving people wrong. So I said, I'll see you Monday. So I went that day and I paid the $100. I had to pay a $100 fee to secure my spot to write the exam on the Monday. Got the course, took my kids Friday afternoon, and we went, because I had them back, and we went to Blockbuster. People know Blockbuster, right? Even though it doesn't exist anymore. I rented, I don't know how many movies. Go down the 99-cent aisle. Let's get some cheap movies. Let's get this, get that. And then I spent the rest of the weekend plugging tapes with kids, and they're young on either side of me, kids watching movies. And only breaks I took was to cook. Otherwise, I was sitting there studying, watching, trying to interact with them, plus studying. Sunday, they had to go back to their mom's. It was the way our scheduling was, they had to go back Sunday night. So I took them back to their mom's. I stayed up all night. I never slept, right? About 8 o'clock that morning. I had to be there by 8:30. At around 7:30, 8 o'clock, took a quick shower because I lived close to where the office was. Drove there, went in, wrote the exam, and passed it. Proceeded to go later on that afternoon to the office of the guy that laughed at me. I walked in and I had a sullen face. I had a poker face. I walked in and he comes over to me, puts his arm around me, and he says, "That's okay. There's always next time." I went, "Next time for what?" "Well, for you to write again." And I handed him the temporary slip they gave me, and his face dropped. I had passed something that takes people 4 to 6 months to do. I did it on a freaking weekend. And I'm not saying I'm smarter than other people. I just am tenacious, and I've got a memory that I can read and remember things, right? What is studying? It's memory, it's remembrance, right? So That's how I got in the industry. The next story, it took a while for the regulatory body to get my license up and running. September 19th, 2002, I was officially licensed. 6 weeks later, I fired the guy that was training me because he was all about transactions, not about relationships. The first year, September to September, I made only $8,000 in commission. Remember, prior to that, I was a six-figure income earner. I was like, holy. And it was a struggle. But in that period of that year, I reached out to many product providers. I went to different brokerages that were inside of our agency, and I talked to them. What do you do? And I picked and choose like a buffet, like I treat life, what I liked and what I didn't, and how I wanted to develop my practice. And from September till March of 2000, and it would have been 2004. So I've been in the industry a year. So from September of 2003 to March of 2004, I made $147,000 in commission. So 8,000 to 147,000. What was the secret sauce? I'm tenacious. I wanted to learn about doing this business the right way instead of the way that it still is even today, transactional. Press hard 3 copies. I cared about people, and I attracted some big business really quick, right? So that's how I got into the industry. Here's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, you got in it, and then you got above the noise, right? As David Breyer would teach us, is that your separators, that you care, right? And I remember, like, on one of the Arate calls, somebody asked a question. I thought, I can't believe they asked this question. They said, "How can you be more honest? How can I be more honest?" Right? Like, if you have to ask yourself that, look in the mirror. Yeah. Like, just keep the promises to yourself, right? When you tell someone you're going to do something, do it. And if you don't know what you're doing, admit it, right? A lot of times, financial advisors,
simple.
They just want to sign somebody up and offer, and not listen to people and say, "Oh, well, this is what we offer. Take it or leave it. It's the best in the industry. And we have all these sales techniques to convince you otherwise, that against your better logic." And one thing that, if I may, just read an excerpt from your book that's really moving. So this is from Dwight's book, Give a Heck. We are put here on this earth to chase dreams. Finances are the grease that smooth the tracks. However, the passion of your dreams is the engine that drives that train. You are never too old to chase a dream, unless you decide you are, and that is when you stop the train and start to die. A life without dreams is meaningless, but it is not a clear and smooth path. Reality has a way of getting us off track sometimes. If it were that easy, it would not be so much fun. So when I read that, right, I'm I'm kind of inspired because there's times when I don't have my act fully together, right? But you know, because you hear, hey, when you start at 20 years old, at 25 years old, and you put this much money away, and it compounds over time, you get this perfect retirement. Well, what if you didn't start at 25? Or what if there's a divorce basically yanked out your security blanket? Now you have to build a new one, right? Or maybe a few poor investment choices landed you, at zero or below
Been
zero,
there,
right?
been there, up and
Okay, me
down,
too.
roller
Me too.
coaster.
Me
I
too.
just
Me
don't
too.
give up.
Oh
I
yeah.
just don't give up like you.
No, no, you can't. You can't. You can't because if you don't, then your light is dimmed for the world. And we weren't created to be living in our darkness and in those moments that are setbacks. Whether it be health, whether it be financial, we can all find a way out of it. We can all find relief, right? But the first thing is opening up. And like, how would you recommend somebody open up? Because sometimes people just, like you said, they're so bottled up in their emotions, right? They're afraid to ask for help.
Well, the biggest thing is there's not any secret formula or sauce that I can tell somebody and how they can open up. All I can do is hope that maybe a family friend will refer them, and they're at a point where they're so tired of being sick and tired that they're willing for once in their lives to lay it out on the line, to wear their emotions on their sleeve, literally, so that they can take some constructive criticism. So, it's not like I can, that's why cold calling doesn't work in my industry. Unless you're going to sell, you want to sell some term insurance or a monthly pack into an investment, you're not creating any real change until you have a conversation. So when I sit with somebody, I just want to get to know them. I literally I have goal sheets that are the same ones that I've been utilizing. They've been changed a little bit, things added. There's like approximately 10 items on there. And, where are you currently at? I want to find where they're currently at in their mindset. And the people will check, well, I want to be able to retire. I want to get out of debt. I want to be able to pay for my kids' education. I want to be able to own a home. Maybe they're still renting. And those are the starting blocks for me to now have more conversations. So I'll look at Mr. and Mrs. Smith. We'll use a couple as an example. You mark down here that you want to do this. This is what your goal or your aspiration is. What are you currently doing for that? And I shut up and I let them talk. And sometimes you get a little short answers for those ones that are really timid or really, scared or they've dealt with other professionals and they're shocked on how I deal with them or they'll just puke everything out. They'll just and I'm sitting there writing notes, right? Oh, awesome. Right. And it might be just it might be an individual, but if it's a couple, and then I'll ask, the spouse, what about you? What are your aspirations? Let me see your sheet, because I give meets a sheet and it's never the same. They're shocked. What do you mean you have this as a goal? I hear that too. Why is that your goal? And I'll look at them and say, because you guys, just because you're a couple, you're still individuals. You still have dreams and aspirations, and we're going to work with both of you to help you get what you both want. And we're going to help you help each other. And you're going to create a team that you've never had before. You're going to create communication that you've never felt before. And I don't expect you to believe it's going to happen snapping my fingers. It's going to take some trust that you've never had for one another. It's going to take you trusting myself to help you through this process. Now, let's talk more about this goal that you want. We don't even talk about numbers. You do the first appointment. Sometimes it's the first two appointments. There's nothing talking about numbers because it's useless. Their numbers are already nowhere all over the stratosphere. Even the ones that tell me that their friends will say, oh, my friends are really affluent. They have lots of money. You should see what they have. They're just at a higher level of broke. They're great at a facade, right? They just are. And that's what I've found in 21 years repeatedly. Some of my clients that are that I get that people think need help, they got the most and they got their life together. They just don't live vocally loud about it. They're just, they drive old vehicles. Some of my wealthiest clients that are worth millions and millions of dollars, you'd think that they should be on a street corner with a tin cup begging for change. And some of my clients that look the most fanciest car, nicest houses, they can barely go to the store and buy a can of Coke because their credit card would probably be declined. Right? It's a reality. Yeah. But it all starts at just caring and asking questions. The good questions.
We have to. And then, then you clarify and you're best able to serve the clients and meet them where they are. When, in my business, if somebody inherits a house or, gets rid of something that, and salvages some equity on that sale, sometimes they have, like, in one case, a seller said, okay, this $80,000 has to last me the rest of my life.
Yeah, good luck with that.
What would you tell that? Well, I understand that, but what would you say to kind of either stretch that dollar, manage it best so that it goes a little longer?
It all goes back to my one chapter in the book. The one that I get people reaching out to me the most about is the budgeting chapter, right? Without understanding your numbers, I don't care who you are. You could be a multi-millionaire, and I've sat down and budgeted with them, and they're wealthy, but they're flatlined in their business or they're flatlined in their wealth. It's usually because they're spending way more and they're spending money stupid, because even the wealthy need to track their numbers just as much as somebody that's poor. Live a controlled life. Live a life on purpose of knowing, you know what, January is a tough month because Christmas was here. And I just spent way more than I should have because none of it was budgeted. And then I should have spent only $50 in this person. I spent $150 in this person, blah, blah, blah. Then they spend the next year in credit card debt. And January is the worst month. If you look at the depression rates and suicide rates, January, February is huge for financial pressure on people. And understanding Christmas is a commercialism, right? So I tell people with your budget, let's look at all these numbers. Look at these months. Why are these months more expensive for you? End of August into September? Well, kids go back to school, or, maybe you got kids in university or whatever the case, your expenses are higher. Well, on the months where your expenses aren't higher, how about we take that excess and put it into some place where it's easily accessible, but it's not so accessible that you can go and, you're having a good day and a good mood and you go and blow it and buy yourself a new coffee table. I'm just using that as an example. It could be anything, when really in reality, they don't even know the difference between a need and a want. I even have to coach people. Do you really need a new coffee table? Or is that, no, I want one because my other one's kind of not fitting me. I've had it for 10 years or whatever. Okay, that's great. So that's a want. That's not a need, but you need to be able to get out of debt so you quit making other people wealthy by paying interest. You need to eventually save for your retirement because you don't want to be a person that, is eating Spam all the time, right? But somebody that's tell me that they got $80,000 and they got to live off the rest of your life, I'm looking at them and telling them, you know what, you can't afford to retire. That's how direct I am, because I do sit with clients that I get referred to. They're 63, 64. They want to retire at 65. Go through all their numbers and say, I got some good news and some bad news. The good news is I can help you. The bad news is you ain't retiring. Not based on what you've told me over the last few meetings and the expenses of what it's going to cost you to be retired. Because everybody's adage is, I'm going to spend less money in retirement. No, you're not. Not unless you want to watch the paint peel inside your house. Usually you want to travel. Maybe you want to get a new vehicle. Maybe you want to get a travel trailer, a boat. Maybe you just, you want to renovate your house because now you're going to be home more. You got to take all that into account well before you retire. And people say, like these old financial people that say you only need, 60 to 70% of the money that you have when you worked. They literally need to die in the industry. They need to leave the industry because I'm telling my clients, you want at least the same amount of money, if not more, and I'm going to prove to you why. And once by the time I goal set with them and we budget, they're blown away because guess who's usually right? Not them. Right? And it's not because I'm smarter than them. I'm at a different place in the journey of life. I've been where they were. I had to learn. I had to scrape my knee. I had to get up, put a Band-Aid on, start over, and use failure as a stepping stone to success to learn more about my industry so I could care more about myself, so I could care more about others. And I still have challenges, Demetri. I'm not perfect. I never started until my kids, because I was eventually became a full-time dad of my kids. I had excessive debt. It took me years to get out of debt, to be able to start saving for my retirement. And I was in my 40s, right? And my point is, it's never too late. The difference is if I had started in my 20s, it would be a smaller portion. When you start in your 40s, you got to save more, right? Obviously, because of compounding time. But I just want your listeners and people, I don't know if your podcast is watched or not, if you have a channel, but anybody listening to this, to my voice, it's never too late to give a heck about yourself. You can achieve. I've helped people in their 60s reinvent themselves in their lives. I've got clients that have been introduced to me and they're in their 70s that didn't understand that they did have enough because nobody ever sat with them. Everything was a transaction. We sat down and I give them peace of mind that they're going to be okay. I dealt with a client here, and just go to show you how relationships work, Demetri. This gentleman is 80. Walter would be 82 now. I met Walter approximately between 15 to 17 years ago through another one of my clients, really good clients, friends of mine that were friends of mine even before I got into this business, became one of my best clients, husband and wife, her brother, and he was humming and hawing, and he grew up in that depressive style of like the depression and everything's penny pinching. I meet up with him. He's a farmer, and he worked at a machine shop hours away from here. He'd come to the city, into the capital, and I'd go for breakfast with him, or we'd go for lunch. I just kept a relationship with him. I just liked him. Sold his farm this year, right? He gets a hold of me, wants to sit and talk. We had a couple different appointments, and from the sale of his property, he gave me $500,000 to invest, right? At 80 years of age. And people will say, well, good for him. He had land to sell and this and that. Yeah. But he was, even at 80, he's still afraid of running out of money. You don't know how long he's going to live. Maybe he's one of those centurions that lives till he's 100, right? Who knows? So I helped him understand. And he remembered some of our conversations. I remember us having breakfast up here at this place, this hotel. We met at this cafe. And you told me this and this and that. He says, I remember the things you told me. That's why we're together today, right? Building relationships doesn't always give you fruition right away in regards to business. But the fruition that I got was I created a lifelong person that respected who I am because I respected who he was, whether or not he was going to give me money, right? You got to start somewhere.
That's honorable, and you build a tribe that way. And you plant seeds that grow in different times, right? Some don't grow at all, but you still put goodwill out there. And even if that's not a client, they may refer you somebody who may turn into a client. But it's all with good intention. And so, that's really nice that, you're able to serve that person's need because you're probably the only person who's equipped to serve that person's need.
Well, in the way that I did, normally in the past I would say, there's other people, but in 21 years of sitting down with people that have been dealing with other so-called professionals from the traditional industry or the banks or all these MLM finance companies that are out there, which are causing more grief than anything. And I have used to have direct relationships to them, and I can speak from experience, but I won't name names. There's very few people out there that can do what I did for him. I put his money into a guaranteed pension program that it doesn't matter if he lives till 120. If he had given me the money at 60, it wouldn't matter. And I have so many clients, my own family, my own parents in their 80s have been in these products for more than 12 years or 15 years now, actually, since 2008. And literally never have to worry about running out of money. It doesn't matter if the market goes down. So that gentleman with $500,000 or even a couple 100,000, it doesn't matter if the markets go down and your capital's went from $500,000 to being worth 400,000. They have to pay you out the same pensionable amount every single month, the rest of your life. It's guaranteed and secured. Unfortunately, they don't have products like this in the U.S. And how do I know that? Well, I've been speaking in the U.S. off and on for the last 20 years, right? So I know the products and services, not as well as maybe Canada, but I know the basics of what's offered. But in my country, I can help a senior or even somebody that's not a senior, they're 40 years old, and say, I'm scared of running out of money. And I can help them get into insured products that'll guarantee them no matter what happens in the markets, they're going to have a pension. And that's peace of mind. That's something that a bank they can't even sell the products I do. I have products and services that certain traditional people can't even sell, and the banks can't sell at all in my country. So, you're right. I can be that deal breaker for somebody. I just need to get in front of them to be that deal breaker.
Right, and you have to, that's why you go and put yourself out there and have the podcast and give these talks, because introducing yourself to a wide audience maybe saves that potential client the horror show of working with somebody who has canned spam to offer. Right? Hi, buy my canned spam. I'm one of 10,000 agents at this MLM. Yeah. But we don't call it MLM. We call it direct sales. We call it building my team. It's sign them and forget them.
It makes me sick. But
well, you're an individual, right? And a purist, right? And you actually care about that customer. You care about their financial future, their family's future. And this builds a trust factor, because money's that forbidden third rail. And if somebody actually has some money, they're not going to trust just anybody with their money, because it took a while to earn it. And you could easily squander it if you're not investing it to the client's preferred way, to ensure that they have a stable future. Because imagine, I'm picturing it for anybody that you serve, that they wake up in the morning more assured in themselves, that hey, if something happened and I was sick or I needed to buy another car, or help out somebody in need, I can do that, right? That feels good. And for a lot of people, what did I hear a quote the other day? 52% of this country can't scratch together $1,000 if needed.
Well, in my book, I talk about the fact, and it's part of one of the speeches that I do on stage. And just as a side note, to those that are listening to this, I coach people on finance and educating them. Everything I'm talking about, I do that outside of my country, right? People hire me and I can coach you. It doesn't matter where you are. And then I will help you through choosing and deciding what you need in your own, where you live, right? I will put that effort in to figure out what you have, where you live, to put in place what we've now worked on. Your goal setting, your budgeting. So I can help anybody around the world with that. I just may not be able to give you offer a product if you're not living where I live. But now I lost my point. That was a side note.
No, but you build this. No, I like what you just said. So you're saying that you can build a framework, right? Because a lot of people say, yeah, I need to save for retirement. Well, what does that look like? Let's sketch out the plan, the outline, right? And like I said, if you're just kind of that calm outside, independent expert, you come inside with fresh eyes, and you're able to assess where they are.
Oh yeah.
Right. This is what you can afford. You want that dream house in the future. This is what it costs. Today, this is what it costs. But in the future, this is what power prices will cost. This is what your taxes will be. Maybe it'll be higher. So let's plan for that. And instead of spending money on foolish things, maybe people start calling you before they make a big purchase.
They do. I do get that, and I love the fact that you brought that up. So, those that are located in the U.S. and I have, I've coached people and had calls with people in Australia. in around Europe and stuff, I'll charge you said fee, but I guarantee that when you're done working with me, if you're willing, you will have what Demetri just said, that framework. And now I know what I was going to bring up. You talked about the 52%. In my book, I talk about this, and this is North America, and it actually applies really around the world. If you're in a room of 100 people, Demetri, in North America, depending on what state you are or which province, and it's between 91 to 94, we'll use 91. It's called the 91 and 9 principle. In a room of 100 people, which all of us have been, you walk into that room, 91 of those people out of the 100 by the age of 65 are going to be one of two things, either dead or they're going to be dead broke. And I ask people, where do you want to be? Where do you want to be? Wow. Do you want to be in the 9%? And out of that 9%, 8 are comfortable. 1 is wealthy. 1 out of 100 people is actually wealthy. Doesn't have to worry about money, has an endless stream. And if you look at who controls society in our world today, it's always the wealthy. The billionaires of our world have, like, look at the last thing I think I was reading, what top 5 billionaires in the US have more money than 60% of the rest of the population. Like, it's just ridiculous how much wealth disparity there is in our world. And I'm not saying there shouldn't be wealthy people. I think there's just too much disparity within the wealth structuring of the system. When the numbers were the same when I started in 2002, and now we're in 2023, 21 years later, it's still 91 people out of 100 are dead broke at 65. That should concern everybody that's listening. And that should make you reflect and look at yourself and say, where am I at? Do I know what I want? If I don't know what I want, I need to find somebody that's going to help me. Oh my gosh, I'll go dump $500 and go out for supper and a concert, but I won't dump $500 to help somebody help me live a life that's purposeful so that I can continually go out for movies and, concerts and food and travel and save for my future. It's all about planning. Quit living from paycheck to paycheck or overdraft to overdraft, right? If you're tired of it, reach out. If not me, look for somebody. Look for somebody where you live locally that's going to help you have that wake-up call and the realization that you're sick and tired of being on the hamster wheel, going to work, go home, get paid, that you want more and you deserve more. Because I believe in you, and you, each and every person that's listening to this, you deserve more. Even if you think you have it all figured out, there's always things we can dial in to make your life even that much more purposeful.
Wow. So you bring empowerment to the masses throughout the world, and that's a noble effort.
So that's my whole goal.
To try to balance that.
That's my whole goal of designing my brand, right? My brand's only 3 years old. Give a Heck's only 3 years old. I created it during the pandemic with help from people like Tony, right? Our mutual friend, Tony Watley, and a bunch of other people. Right. And it's just because like attracts like. We all want to serve and help others. We all have talents and gifts, right? And treasures. And I want to empower others because I didn't have people empowering me even when I got into this industry. Like I said, I fired my trainer because I had to empower myself. I had to put my pride aside. Pride's great if that's a great job. That's a great paint job you did on the wall there, Demetri. You have pride in your job of painting well. But pride on the opposite side can be a negative, right? We don't want to admit that we're weak, that we're living in quiet desperation, that we're living from paycheck to paycheck, or maybe not even, one of the most famous things I've been saying for 21 years. When is it going to come to a point in your life, Demetri, that I'm not saying this personally about you, but just people in general, when is it going to become enough in your life that you're tired and sick and tired of having more days in the month than you have money? When is it going to be enough? When are you going to be sick and tired of realizing, I had $500 in my bank account and I thought, I'm going to go buy this. And I forgot that I had a car payment next week and I had a utility bill coming out because you didn't have anything written down. Nobody ever taught you that you need to live a structured life. And by living a structured life, you live a better life. You live a life where you wake up in the morning with more gratitude and gratefulness. Even if you're down and out and a ton of debt, Demetri, you mentioned it earlier. I give people, my whole job is to give people hope, but to also put active processes in place that their hope isn't diminished, that it continues to grow, and their faith in themselves that they can accomplish things. I've shown people that have, can be in debt for 30 years based on their ability to paying, and show them how they can debt restructure and do debt consolidation principles that work anywhere in the world based on that same workshop principle where I helped them free up $100 and help them get out of debt in half the time, or sometimes a third of the time, because once they get on that momentum, now they're looking for needs and wants, and now they're freeing up not just 100, they're freeing up 200. Now all of a sudden they're taking lunch 4 days a week and only eating out Fridays, right? They're taking coffee every single day. All of a sudden they free up another $150, $200. All of a sudden, hey, Dwight, here's our goals. What can we do now? Okay, well, let's put another $100 against your debt consolidation. Let's put some into your retirement, so you get a little bit of feel good that you're saving for your retirement. Oh, you got kids, you want to do an education. Oh, you want to have a paid off, you want to have a vacation where you're not living on a credit card. Perfect. What's your vacation? What do you want to do? Hey, let's get some numbers together. Oh, you're going to need about this amount of money. Let's save this amount. Oh, you get excitement in people. Guess what? They want to save money. They want to stop living on that hamster wheel of just throwing money out the window as they drive down the freeway, right? Sorry, I get on my soapbox.
Right. No, it's right, because it's like, a lot of us, and there's been times even in my life, you go from like one day eating steak and the next day you're eating tuna fish.
And nowadays, tuna fish is damn expensive. You got to go to the dollar store and buy a couple cans of Spam of that Hawaiian delight.
The dollar store isn't a dollar store.
Yeah, anymore. I know. It's like $2.50. It's like, it's another thing. I told somebody here recently, we do all our shopping at the dollar store. I said, okay, what do you buy there? And they're telling me. I said, you realize, like, at least in Canada, that the sizes of what they're allowed to sell, everything's controlled, right? You got this many ounces or milliliters for those that are Canadian or around the world that use metric. You literally have only certain sizes, and you go in there and you think you're saving money. And I challenge people. I went in recently with my son just to prove a point. And I hadn't been in one in forever. I'm going down the aisle and I looked at stuff because I buy the groceries. And I said, that's actually cheaper at the local grocery store. And you get big, they're controlled in the quantity size here. So they're selling it, saying it's a good deal, but it's a lower quantity size. Yet if you spend another 30 or 40 cents and bought that at the grocery store, you're getting this much more, you're getting more better value. So the mindset of the dollar store is so ingrained in people that they think they're saving. And some of the stuff at the dollar store, I'm not saying is bad, but a lot of their products is crap. And you're not getting the value for the dollar. For me, everything's time value of money. When I spend money, and people say to me, like even recently here when I was traveling in Europe, and we were traveling and I'm looking at stuff, and I'm traveling with Michael, who in the 365 group, and we're traveling together and we're having conversations, and I talked to him about, for me, it's not the fact that I'm ever cheap or frugal. I need to get value for what I'm spending. So if I'm buying a meal or I'm buying something, that's why I bought like a couple things. 3 weeks in Europe, I only bought a couple things and brought back. Why? Because I got to worry about Canadian exchange. If I'm shopping in Britain, it's 75 cents on the dollar usually. So I'll pay $1.75 for £1. If I'm traveling around the rest of Europe, the euro can be anywhere from $1.45 to $1.65. Excuse me. So why would I buy stuff, trinkets that are made in China and another country to bring back to my country? Why don't I just buy the product here? And people will say, well, where'd you get that realization? I'm a numbers guy. I like value for my money. I don't like throwing it out the window. I don't get caught up in that. Oh, you got to buy it. You can say that you bought it in Greece. You can say you bought it in Spain. I don't care. I don't need to live that life vicariously through that one snapshot of what I experience. I'd rather spend my money smartly. And I better get good value for what I'm spending. I don't care what country it's in, even in my own country. It frustrates me. And even when I go out to eat, I usually am very disappointed. And I'll tell my son, and you brought that up earlier, like, look what it costs, $25 for breakfast and stuff. Well, oh my gosh, expensive to go over in Europe and eat. But, I look at the fact. So a couple nights ago, I bought 2 ribeye steaks. And those 2 ribeye steaks are very, like, with inflation, meat's gotten so expensive. I bought these 2 ribeye steaks as a treat for my son and I, $30. And people may think, well, that's a lot of money. There were big ribeye steaks that fed us through 2 meals. But those ribeye steaks, had we gone out to have, even just like this, let's say 6-7 ounces, and you have a ribeye steak and you have a potato, whatever, you're looking for 2 people at least $60-$70. It's not cheap. I fed us, right? I had broccoli at home here. I sat there, and I used to do it with my kids too. I'd say to them, yeah, I know you guys wanted to go out and eat. I just fed you 5 kids, and I fed myself for about a third of what it would have cost if I took you to wherever, even if it was a place like Denny's. And I know what the quality of the food is going to be like. I'm not going to have one kid that gets their meal wrong because the waitress or waiter wasn't listening, or the cook overcooked it or whatever. We're going to have quality here. And guess what? We're going to have some leftovers. And I've only paid this amount. So people listening, that's the way you have to start thinking. I'm not saying you can't treat yourself, that you can't have fun, but it needs to be controlled where you live a purposeful life. You earn that, okay? Kids, let's say you don't have kids, whatever, you're just an individual. I'm only going to go out and do this if I accomplish this goal. I'm only going to do this if I accomplish this. Put that carrot on a stick in front of you and make it so you can reach that carrot, but only if you deserve it, if you earned it, right? And you can do that same principle in a relationship with family, and you make everybody earn what they want and not just give it to them because you think they deserve it. Right? That's part of our problems with our society today. We're so quick to just give, and especially with our social programs, they've gotten out of control in North America, US, and Canada. I'm not against social programs because sometimes there is the downtrodden, there is people that need help, but I think it's being abused too much. And look at after the pandemic, how many people are still not going back to work. We have a work shortage in Canada, people not wanting to work, right? It's like, what the WTF? Yet, and then those people 10, 15, 20 years from now are going to be, I can't retire. I can't pay for anything. Now, if you're a person that can prove you tried and you had some extraordinary circumstances happen, okay, we'll help you. But if you're just a dumbass, I'm sorry that may sound harsh, but if you're just a dumbass and you didn't even try when you had, especially if you had an opportunity. I look at all the people I've sat with in 21 years that have never done anything with me, or any of my agents over the years that I used to have in my brokerage. I have a hard time feeling sorry and sympathy for people that had the opportunity and still walked away from it. Right? I really do. Now, there's some people with mental problems, emotional issues, maybe trauma that's going on. They're an exception. But a majority of the people, it's just because they're dumbasses. They just don't care.
You have to be willing to accept help. Yeah. You're throwing a life raft. Somebody's drowning in an ocean, and then you're passing by with a boat, and you're about to you're going along your way, and you say, "Oh, this poor soul is about to drown. Hi, can I throw you a life raft or a preserver or something?"
Yeah.
No, I'm good. Well, what do you mean you're good? I can see you're drowning there. No, my nose is still above water. I didn't drown yet. Well, you go on your way because you can't help them, or they don't want to accept your help, and then a shark eats them because they're not built to handle another setback, right? And at least if they have a reserve that they can save for a rainy day, and just to quote Ben Franklin, the local Philly champion, a penny saved is a penny earned. So start saving those pennies.
I think, was it I don't know if it was before the recording of Tony's podcast or during the recording of when I had him on here last month. We talked about that too. The fact that I'll stop and pick up a penny. We don't have pennies anymore in Canada. They got rid of them a few years ago. But literally, I'll stop and pick up a nickel, a dime, a penny my whole life. And people they'd laugh at me. Why are you picking up that penny? Because what's 10 pennies? I'd say that to people, 10 cents. What's 100 pennies? $1. Well, guess what? Enough pennies, I got $1. Then I got another $1. Then I got another $1 with your adage. And, because I had friends when I was growing up they'd have pennies and they'd throw them. They just literally throw them on the ground. And I'd be like, what the are you doing? Don't do that anymore. Give them to me. I'll take your pennies. Oh, they're way down my pocket or they're in my change purse. Well, I'll take them. Give them to me. I don't care. I'll take your penny. Like you said, a penny saved is a penny earned. Well, even picking up a penny. And Tony says, yeah. He says, even in my state today, he says, just recently I picked up a penny. Perfect.
Oh, I do it every single day. In fact, I was in North Philly near one of my apartments this morning. I had just eaten breakfast. I crossed the street, and I see a penny down there. And I'm like, I'm going to pick this up as I cross the street. It's embedded in the asphalt. I was disappointed. I'm like, if I had a chisel and a screwdriver, I would have chiseled that penny out.
Perfect.
I'm like, damn it. I got to touch it. I didn't get to pick it up. But every time I pick it up, I'm happy. Because I learned this from an early teacher. He said, well, do you have enough money that you could just walk right over it? I'm like, no. So pick up that penny. Pick up that $1. I sometimes you see quarters.
Oh my God.
I'm like, that's a quarter. That's useful. That could be that can go into something. And
100%.
but it's kind of this idea of if you're throwing pennies away, you're throwing dollars away. You're throwing money on sometimes personal development and not putting it to use, right? Or buying tools and not using them in your business or life, right? And if you're giving somebody the tools to say, you know what, step back, have some self-discipline and restraint in your life. But I'm telling you this nicely so that you're not in more pain in the future when you're older and less able to earn money. And you might need somebody to take care of you, and hopefully your family loves you. But if you don't have family or they don't love you, you're going to have to pay for elder care.
You know, another thing people have to worry about is ageism. I had a client. Client reach out to me. Sorry, it might have been last week. Could have been a week before. Just when I got back from Europe, and I asked them if they'd found work. They've been out of work since like February, March. Nope. And the person's got massive skills in their industry, and they literally have been applying, and they've gone for interviews. And as soon as they go to the interview, they think they got the job, and they're getting turned down. Well, they're going to turn 60 right away, right? So ageism is rampant and real and large, and another reason why what you were saying, people need to save and start sooner and get their lives in control, because in an age where you mentioned earlier too that AI is taking over and people are losing a lot of jobs, you never know where your career is. Look at me. I've been fighting against an industry that's gone to robo-advisors and online, brokerages and this and that, getting insurance, click, 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 and you can get some insurance. Click, click, click. You can do monthly invite. It's just a transaction. There's no real connection, relationship, or support. But in an industry like mine, I was telling somebody this week, when I started in my industry 21 years ago, I got X% when I got assets under management. That has decreased by 1.9% that I get paid now today. It works actually, it's just shy of 2%. It's dropped. I get paid less constantly. And I've seen that happen more and more and more. Yet I have to put in more effort to secure a client to help them. I put in more effort, yet I get paid less commission. I can sit and boo-hoo, woo-hoo, but what did I do? I thought, well, I'm sick and tired of going through this roller coaster of my finance industry. I love what I do. I don't want to stop doing it, but I need other streams of income. So that's another thing I focus on, helping people, right? get other streams of income, work on like our buddy Tony with Side Hustle Millionaire. Let's get a side hustle going. What's your dreams and aspirations? Not everybody's going to be a good entrepreneur, but that's why I created my brand. I want to have other side streams. I want to take my coaching from just my country to the masses around the world. And that's why the last couple of years I've been doing it for free with people outside my country to help them to make sure that I could do what I was saying. Even though I knew I could, I needed that kind of, that time value proof, and just keep on keeping on. My podcast, as you mentioned, is a passion project. It didn't even have anything to do with finance. I have everybody and anybody on there that can serve humankind, right? But what is it good for? Know, like, and trust, right? Know, like, and trust. People can go, oh, geez, he's doing this and doing it to help out other people. He's not even talking about finance. It comes up once in a while for those of you that have never listened to my podcast. I have the person I had on this week, that's the podcast, she's a cancer survivor, right? Wrote a book about the trials and tribulations she went through. She was amazing. Nothing to do with finance. Had to do with the fact that she's a stick-to-itiveness. She's a person that did whatever it took to make her life better, and 15 months of chemotherapy treatment, never missed a beat, still went and did her public speaking engagements, have people waiting off the stage to give her, to help her and give her intravenous immediately. Why am I telling you this? You don't have to be that way, but even being a part of what this woman is, her name's Fitz, can help you. It's called tenacity. Being tenacious is a superpower. Right? It honestly is a superpower, because no matter what beats you down, you're getting back up. You're going to strive. You're going to thrive. You're going to reach out to people like Demetri because you're having a bad moment. And you're going to say, Demetri, I can't get out of this slump that I'm in right now at this moment of the day. And Demetri, because you're like-minded people and you've attracted one another, is going to understand and go, you know, what's going on, brother? And he's going to listen to you. You're ranting for a few minutes, and he's going to say, well, what about thinking about it this way? What about doing this in your life? And you're going to go, I never thought about that, because it snaps you out because it's somebody else seeing the forest for the trees. And then you get to those days where you can see the forest for yourself, right, Demetri? And you can do your own course correction. But life is about associations, good associations to everything you do. Right, from your goal setting to your budgeting to who you hang out with, what you listen to, what you read. And until you start working on those little building blocks in life, you're going to always struggle. You need to work on those building blocks in order to get to a point where you're always going to know what your next step is that you want to achieve. There's no guarantee you're going to achieve it, but you know what your next step is, and you know how to get there. You know who to surround yourself with. And if you're great, you already have those people. They're already surrounded around you, right? And they're going to be there when they need to be there, and you're going to be there for them when they need you too. And it's synergy. It's community. And your community doesn't have to be big. It just has to be purposeful. It has to be impactful, and it has to be what you're looking for as well. You got to give what you want.
No, that's and on that note, like I couldn't add anything better. But living that purpose-driven life fires you up, so that when you don't feel your best, you still do the work, because it matters, and you mattered. I'm going to call you Tenacious D, because if the band comes back, I want you to be the singer. I don't care what Jack Black does anymore.
I haven't heard that Tenacious D in a long time.
You're truly tenacious, because you're relentless, right? And knowing that people aren't served by the industry in the way that the industry is trying to serve people. So you got to go upstream rather than downstream and say, all right, this is how it works. And let me show you the old-fashioned way, with the heart, with the human component, as opposed to an automation. Because even though it's more efficient to have an automation, it doesn't serve somebody's individual need. So I really want to thank you, Dwight, for your time today, being on the podcast, and you're always welcome back. And Remember, the other week I said you're mostly tolerable. Now you're completely tolerable. So thank you so much.
You're welcome,
And
brother.
if people want to reach out, thank you, brother. And if people want to reach out to you or follow you online, what's the best way to do that?
I'm going to make it simple. Just go to giveaheck.com. Giveaheck.com. One word, giveaheck.com. And you will, there's everything in there. You can click and find out about my book. You can click on a podcast portal. You can click on find about financial education and some of the initial steps I do for people. You can click and get a free, book a free video call with me. And we'll see how I can help you. Maybe all you need is just you want to listen to a podcast where I'm interviewing people that, I've interviewed some really interesting people. I've interviewed people that I've interviewed a guy here recently, lives in Hawaii, used to do personal cooking for Robin Williams, right? I've interviewed some really interesting people. Maybe you're just looking for some soundbite. Maybe you want a book to read. Maybe you just, maybe you don't need me at all. And that would be great too, because if you don't need somebody like me, you've got your ducks in a row, you're living a purposeful life. Congratulations.
Wow. Well, definitely give a heck about you, Dwight. And to quote another wonderful show, you're welcome at my office anytime. Well, thanks for being on the show today and being a guest on the Relief Podcast.